Amanda and welcome to part 6 in my Quilt Along With Me series. Now if you're quilting along with me at home, then you will know that this is the very last video in this series, and we will be spending it by looking at how to make and attach a quilt label to our finished quilt. Now there is no pattern sheet for this particular part, but I am very happy to say that the full pattern, which includes absolutely everything that you need to know about how to make this quilt, is now available. So you can find the link to that down in the description box below. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do to our quilt to officially say that it is finished is to attach a quilt label. Now I think that it is really important to label your quilt because you're putting in all of the crucial information about that quilt all in this little label. This important type of information includes the date the quilt was made, by whom the quilt was made, sometimes for whom the quilt is made for, as well as the name of the quilt. There are many different ways that you can make quilt labels. You can definitely go down the easy road and just buy quilt labels by the panel. These are the ones that I have. I've used these plenty of times in my quilts, especially when I'm sort of pressed for time or I've just sort of gotten to the end of a really difficult quilt. I'm just like, I just want to I'm over it. I just need to label it and just put it away and walk away from it, because sometimes that happens. You can definitely go the next step up and make your own quilt labels like I have. For this quilt I've chosen to make a little hexie flower with the fabric that I used in the block, just to sort of tie it all together and to make it sort of fun and cool and stuff. Now of course you don't have to make your label in the way that I have. It is really up to you how you want to make your quilt label. Now I'm not going to go into too much more detail about quilt labels and how to make them and all that sort of stuff, because I've already made a video chatting all about quilt labels. The video is called Quilt Labels 101, and in there I chat about absolutely everything you need to know about labels, from the tools that you use to write on them, to simple ways to attach it, and also the important details to write on a quilt label as well. So there's a link to that video on the screen right now, as well as down in the description box below. Both of those links won't take you away from this video. They'll just simply pop up in another tab that you can watch after you finish watching this video. And I've also written a blog post about it, so the link to that is also down in the description box below if you wish to read that. So just like I have in the other videos in this series, I'm just going to simply go through the steps that I usually take to attach my quilt label. And the way that I usually do this is just a really simple applique and hand stitching method. So after stitching the hexie flower together using a white hexie for the center and 6 hexies with the fabric I used in my blocks, I take off the black tacking thread and then carefully take out the cardboard hexie template. I then give the hexie flower a good steamy press and then apply some spray starch to both sides to ensure everything stays in place. Next, with a fine point Sharpie felt pen, I write on the important details of my quilt, such as the date it was completed, the name I've chosen for the quilt, as well as who made the quilt. After that, I roll out some heat and bond, also known as Flies Fix, and cut out enough to cover the back of the hexie flower. I gently press the heat and bond to the back so that it attaches just slightly. Doing this will help to keep it in place as I trim off the excess around the edges. Once all of the sides have been cut flush with the edges of the hexie flower, I go ahead and press the heat and bond firmly to the back using a dry heated iron. So the usual place that I like to attach my quilt labels is down on the bottom edge, usually in the left corner. Sometimes I'll put it in the right corner. It just depends on which one I can be bothered doing, I suppose. This time around I've chosen to put it on the bottom left hand corner of the quilt when you're looking at the quilt front. Now before I iron the label onto the quilt back, I first get rid of any unwanted fluff and thread bits. Then I place the label into place, finalising the angles and how much space to leave from the binding edge. Once I'm happy with the placement, I'll gently peel the paper backing away. I'll place the label back into place and then patiently press the label down. Next, I take my time to choose an embroidery thread that matches the greens in the fabric. I decide on a bright apple green DMC thread to use for stitching the label securely to the back of the quilt. After cutting off a length of thread, I then separate the 6 yarns into lots of 2. I thread an embroidery needle and make a knot at the end. I start the stitch by anchoring the knot into the batting, bringing the needle and thread to the surface at the point I wish to start at. I then proceed to sew a blanket stitch, which can also be known as a buttonhole stitch, around the entire edge of the label. When doing this, I ensure the thread doesn't show through the top of the quilt on the other side. I finish the stitch off by making a small tack over the last stitch to hold it down. Then I do another in the same place, this time bringing the needle up away from the stitching. I cut the thread off at the surface of the quilt, leaving the tail buried inside the batting. That is the quilt label finished. I think it looks really, really awesome, and it's the quilt finish too. Yeah! Oh, I'm so happy with it, seriously. Really, really happy. So now that your quilt label is finished and securely sewn onto the back of your quilt is now officially finished. Yes! Well done, and a big congratulations to you. Woo woo. Especially if this was your first quilt that you've ever made. I'm so excited for you, seriously. It's so exciting. So now that we've come to the end, I just want to say a big, huge thank you to everyone who has watched and participated in this quilt along. When I first announced that I was doing the series, I kind of had this feeling that it was just going to sort of fall flat and no one was going to do it. I don't know why. I don't really know why I didn't think that any of you would join in, because you're all just so lovely and wonderful and creative and just awesome. Thank you also for sharing with me your blocks and your quilt tops and your quilting and your experiences and your fabrics and everything. I truly, truly do absolutely love receiving the photos and words of encouragement and support of the stuff that I do and this series and just everything that you send to me. It really just makes my day, and it makes all of the effort that I'm putting into doing this just into perspective, and it just makes it all totally worth it. And for that, I just want to say a big, huge thank you. I really do love talking to all of you, especially on Instagram and through email, and also here on YouTube and also my blog. You all just always have such wonderful things to say, and I am learning from you, which I think is just wonderful about the quilting community. No matter what sort of stage or level we are with quilting, we're always learning something new and discovering something new and always being inspired by just anything and everything. So thank you also for being such wonderful inspirations to me. Oh gosh, this is getting really like deep and meaningful. I didn't mean for that to happen. So even though the series is now officially finished, please keep sharing your blocks and your quilts with me, even if you're watching this in like the next couple of months or next year or whenever. Please keep sharing with me what you're making, because I really would love to see it. And also, if you have any questions, comment down below and I will definitely answer anything that you're having issues with. And also, just like I said at the start of the video, now that the series is over, the full pattern to this quilt is now available on my blog. The link is of course down below if you want to check that out. And now before I go, here is just a lovely little montage of the finished quilt. I am so happy with how this quilt has turned out. It is just so beautiful and love the colours, and it all just goes so well together, and I am more than happy to say that this is up in like my top 5 favourite quilts that I have ever made, so that's cool. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you another time very soon. Bye! Hello, my name is Amanda and welcome to part 5 in my Quilt Along With Me series. In this video I'm going to be showing you the way that I like to make my binding, as well as how I like to attach it to my quilts. Now, because there are measurement and cutting instructions in this step, I have included